Manistee City Council meeting of Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heather Peffley can't be here tonight, but Laura is here to take roll call.
Councilmember Bachman.
Here.
Mayor Beaton.
Here.
Councilmember Lundberg.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan.
Here.
Councilmember Schmansky.
Here.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Here.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Here.
City Manager.
Here.
City Attorney.
Here.
DPW Director.
Here.
Finance Director.
Here.
Planning and Zoning. No. A Police Chief.
Here.
Fire Chief.
Here.
City Engineer.
Here.
Thank you.
Public hearings, we have none. Citizens' comments on agenda-related items. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment on agenda-related items only. Citizens in attendance shall be recognized by the mayor for comments, limited to 5 minutes. Letters submitted to council will not be publicly read. Do we have any citizens who would like to come forward and make some public comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All agenda items marked with an asterisk are on the consent agenda and considered by the city manager to be routine matters. Prior to the approval of the consent agenda, any member of council may have an item from the consent agenda removed and taken up during the regular portion of the meeting. Consent agenda items include approval of minutes, cash balances, revenues and expenses, consideration of ordinance 21-19 to amend Chapter 863, Food Vendors of the City of Manistee, Michigan Codified Ordinances. Notification of next work session. At this time, council could take action to approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Thank you.
Mayor, would you like me to take roll?
Yes, please.
That vote? Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Councilmember Schmansky.
Here.
I'm sorry, is that a yes?
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Bachman.
Yes. I said yes.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan.
Yes.
Mayor Beaton.
Yes,
Motion passed.
thank you. Moving on to new business. Consideration of approving change order number 4, clean water recovery facility improvements, general wastewater improvements, phase 2, contract B. Change order number 4 includes revisions to the headworks building, storage tanks, and the addition of a 60-inch steel casing below the railroad tracks, along with railroad flagging control and construction monitoring. The net change is a contract increase of $82,752 and requires city council approval. At this time, council could take action to approve change order number 4, clean water recovery facility improvements, general wastewater improvements, phase 2, contract B, in the amount of $82,752, and authorize the city manager to execute the documents.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I've got a question. In looking at the bids, did we tell them how to fix the problem, or did they give us a recommendation on fixing the problem? I couldn't quite, it didn't look like they were all bidding on the same thing. And exactly, can you explain exactly what the real problem was that started this change order?
Sure. The big picture is that the railroad tracks are owned by CSX. So the engineers in the city went through the process of their plan review, permitted, and we were all set to go with CSX. After the contract was awarded, then we found out that Genesee, Wyoming, who leases the tracks from CSX, also wanted to go through the same process of plan review and required that flagging be completed during construction and basically track monitoring and inspection. So in order for us to get Genesee and Wyoming's approval, we basically had to reimburse them the expense of having their roadmaster on site every time a train passed through the construction, who inspected the tracks and verified they were safe, and then installed flight control every time the train went by. They also hired a third-party engineer to do inspection while the work was actively going underneath the tracks. So in this change order is an allowance of $20,000 for that activity, and we don't have final billings on that, but we presume it'll be less than that. The other big item is the steel casing, and when the project was bid, the engineers actually designed it with a steel casing to be pushed underneath the railroad tracks and then slip a pipe underneath it. During the value engineering portion of it, working with the contractor, it was decided that that a concrete pipe, reinforced concrete pipe, could be pushed without the casing, and so we actually received a reduction in that dollar amount. When the contractor opened up the bore pits on either side of the tracks, there was about a 4-inch layer of clay at the bottom, and the rest is sand above it. Because the pipe would have had to be pushed through that 4-inch layer of clay at the bottom end, the fear and the contractor was pretty confident that that pipe would rise and follow the top of the clay and not push its way through the clay, and strongly recommended that a steel casing would pierce through that clay and would keep it on grade. And this pipe is very flat and the grades are very sensitive, so we opted to not risk all that money and all that expense and have a pipe that wasn't at grade. So that's the largest portion of this. The other items at the headworks and in the storage tanks are just minor design construction modifications that we go through. And the reason why this is coming to council is because the total of this change order exceeds the $50,000 limit that the purchasing policy is required.
Okay, thank you.
Any opportunities to make up that difference?
Yeah, we've actually been doing very well so far. About 50% of that contract has been constructed and expended. The riskiest part of any construction is when you're below ground and there's things you can't foresee. So I think we're beyond the riskiest portion of the project. We're 50% through the project, and this would equate to about a quarter of the contingency that we had set aside for these type of things.
Okay.
And thanks, Sean, for getting me those numbers.
Yeah, Jeff does a lot better job explaining than I do, but we're over half done with the project and we're only 25% through the contingency.
Okay, that's good to know.
So we're in good shape.
Good.
Jeff, on these conditions, I was reading over, they have a lot of places where say they don't have to pay for stuff and all that. Did you read that?
In which section?
It says Michael's conditions. There's exclusions too that says the proposal doesn't include the cost of a front-end loader, telehandler, excavator, or assistant loading, and proposal doesn't include the cost of fuel. And they go into a bunch of conditions. And, I mean, they seem to get a lot of money. Who pays for some of this? The pricing is based on unrestricted operations. When Michael's will not be held for any cost due to strikes, delays, change project conditions. Additional labor costs will be billed at per hour, 125. Then they say there's some places that they're not responsible if something happens.
Right, and that's pretty standard. Michael's is the subcontractor that dewatered the site. So between the general contractor and their subcontractor Michael's and their other subcontractor Halleck, all of those items have been accounted for, and that's paid for through an allowance in the contract. So basically what Michael's agreement was with the general contractor, Grand River, was we're gonna drill the holes, we're gonna install the casing and the stone, we're gonna provide you the pumps, and we're gonna provide you the piping to de-water it, but you guys have to maintain it the entire time it's there. When you're done, pull the stuff and we'll come pick it up and take it away. And that's just how their pricing was based to the general contractor.
Okay, so if something comes back that has to be paid, then who is it, Mike, who pays for all that then?
Grand River would,
Okay,
under their allowance, yeah.
thanks.
And I think the city attorney can attest that everybody's agreements always tries to cover them the best possible and limit it.
Yeah.
But the governing documents that protects the city is the general conditions and the standard conditions of our contract. That's been reviewed by USDA, the city, and engineers, so,
I just saw all these conditions, I thought I'd better ask.
yeah.
Okay.
Good questions. Anybody else? Would you please take the roll call vote? Thanks, Laura.
Councilmember Grabowski,
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan,
Yes.
Mayor Beaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac,
Yes.
Councilmember Schmansky,
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Buckman.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Consideration of approving the purchase of an articulating loader. A piece of equipment utilized by the Department of Public Works experienced a severe mechanical breakdown this summer that resulted in the machine being retired from service and subsequently being sold at auction. The proposed replacement machine is a 2022 Wacker-Neuson articulation loader with a snow blower and a V plow. This is an unbudgeted item, and therefore the DPW has proposed deferring the purchase of a hot hatch trailer and pickup until a future budget year. At this time, council could take action to approve the purchase of an articulating loader and associated equipment from Frederickson Supply in the amount of $82,241.30. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Jeff, could you explain this loader to us?
So we have a machine that we had to retire. It's called an MB. It's the only one that exists in the state of Michigan. And since I got here, it's got very high operation costs, extremely high repair costs. And so we've been trying to trade it in or find somebody that would sell it. We even went to the company and asked if they'd be interested in buying it back. It did its job, but it just cost of operation was real high. And it's the little boxy yellow machine that it articulates, so it bends in the middle. But it's what you saw most of the time out on the sidewalks, snow blowing the sidewalks. During the summertime, really the only use that we had for it was to put a powered broom on the front of it, and we would broom the sidewalks, parking areas, and the beaches. That's what we cleaned the boat launch ramps when they would get moss growing on them or algae growing on them. The machine was a good machine. The other downside that it had is every attachment that you purchased or that you wanted to use that machine, it has to be specially made for that machine. All the rest of the machines that we have, including our small loader and our skid steer, have a universal connection plate. So if we buy a broom, as long as all the other machines that have hydraulics can fix that broom to it. All our buckets, our forks, the snow blower. So everything else is very versatile. This machine wasn't, so we weren't investing in any new implements, and we've been kind of focusing on doing that universal stuff. And we've been limping it along. I mean, we fix it as it breaks. But this summer, there was a hydraulic failure. We could not get parts for it. We were going to have parts custom made, and there was no way we were going to put tens of thousands of dollars into that machine. So we opted to take it out of service, and we sold it in the auction this summer.
How much did you get for it this summer? Remember?
I do not remember. You probably wouldn't remember that. It was in the $3,000 to $5,000 range, just from memory, but I could look that up for you. So the two main services that MB performed, one, we purchased a new broom that we can use on our other equipment now, so we restored that service. But we sat down and said, okay, we need that snow blower or a snow blower to do sidewalks, especially around the schools. And we didn't have another piece of equipment that could do that right now. The small loader that we have is used downtown to push all the snow off the sidewalks. That has to happen before we can windrow the road, and that has to happen before we can load the snow out of the downtown. So that machine could be dual serviced. It can clean the downtown and then go do the schools, but you're already after lunch and in the afternoon. So we looked at lots of different options. The articulated loader that we currently have has been a tremendous and very versatile purchase for us. And so that's what we're recommending to restore that capacity, is to purchase a second one. I think the city manager sent out an email discussing this to the council back in October, but they were at the end of their model year, but they also upgraded the machine, so we weren't able to get pricing until a couple weeks ago. So we had to wait till that machine was available, and that's why we're bringing it forward tonight.
You lost me a second ago. This is the second one that we're purchasing?
Yeah, we do have one right now.
Okay. So it's, yeah, this just seems like not a good thing to purchase almost $100,000 unbudgeted piece of equipment right now. I mean,
Jeff, how did we end up with that piece of equipment? What was the sale pitch to buy that in the first place? The one of a kind in the state of Michigan that was, as I remember, was like really versatile, and now it's not.
I think at the time there were quite a few of them in Michigan, and it was probably a new product that was coming out. And I wasn't here, so I don't know the history of that. But just hearing from the guys, it was kind of the new technology, something new that was coming out. And I think most municipalities backed away from it.
How many years have we had it then?
I think it was over 10 years old, probably 12 years old.
So if, I see here that we're basically replacing the hot patch trailer and the pickup, is that gonna cause us any problems in the near future that we're gonna have to be concerned about?
Honestly, we didn't have any money budgeted for the auction this year, so we didn't have any projected income from the auction. We netted around $46,000 from that, so that helps reseed the motor pool fund. And just as Councilwoman Sullivan pointed out, because this is an unbudgeted item, I didn't want to create an issue today in the cash flow with the motor pool. So we said, listen, let's just hold off on a truck, and let's hold off on replacing that hot patcher. We'll keep them together for another year. And then this upcoming budget session, we're going to have to reprioritize and see what we can afford to do.
you can get through, like, this winter doing the schools in downtown, just the one machine, right?
I can't do the schools timely with just one machine.
The problem is,
Option to do the school, like,
well, the problem is both of them need to be done first thing in the morning.
yeah, but that's $100,000 just to shovel it driveway. I mean, that's a lot of money. Mm-mm.
What do you do, the sidewalk with it, Jeff, or parking lots, or what do you do for the schools?
We do the school areas when we snow blow the sidewalks. This is the primary machine that would do that. But my point is when we've got an event a snow event that happens during the night, we go out early. We start cleaning the downtown, but we also try to get the sidewalks around the schools so that they're open before the kids are headed to school in the morning.
And how many schools do they have to do?
Right now it's Jefferson, Kennedy, Manistee Middle School, High School, and then obviously the sidewalks all the way down to Catholic Central.
Jeff, you think it's dangerous to have those kids not have sidewalks plowed and they're walking in the street? Or you think that's a necessary evil?
I think that's necessary
Yeah,
and expected.
We obviously did something before these machines were made, I mean.
We actually had, well, 20, 30 years ago, we had bombardier machines that had V-plows on them. Especially, I know when I was a kid, they used to run up and down the sidewalks and just V the snow out of the way. And that's why we actually included the V-plow in this purchase, is to see if we can be more efficient with some of those and get more sidewalks completed in the wintertime.
Hey, Jeff, have you always had two machines?
We have, the answer is no. We used to have one machine, but we used to put pickup trucks on the sidewalks downtown. And excuse my French, but it beat the living heck out of those trucks. And it damaged, they were scraping buildings, they were scraping light poles, they were doing a lot of body damage to them. They're hard on the sidewalks, and it made no sense to me why we would put a pickup truck on a sidewalk. So so when we purchased the first mini loader, it was to replace the trucks being on the sidewalks.
And how long has that been?
I would say 6 years, probably around 6
And you've
years.
had two of them in service for 6 years?
For 6 years, yeah.
Thanks.
Well, the schools are open before the stores are, so can't you switch around the time frame of when you do things?
You'd like to think so, but we actually have to start downtown at 4 in the morning in order for us to finish the downtown by about 10 in the morning. And the first thing you have to do is get everything off the sidewalks. So if you don't get things off the sidewalks first, then you can't do step 2, 3, 4, and 5 and complete it.
And no parking until what time in the morning in downtown? Until 7 a.m.? Where people can park downtown? 3 to 7 a.m., is that what it is?
I think it's 3 to 7.
Gives you that window to work on it.
Yeah, I mean, once the coffee shop's open, then there's cars everywhere.
Yeah, the answer to the question is we have 5,000 in the auction.
We got 5,000 for that MB. And I understand your concerns, and we debated this internally, how best, if we're gonna spend money, how best do we do it? How best do we buy something that has the most utilization in the community, the most efficiency for what we do, but it achieves the goals that are expected?
I understand the need for it, but then when summertime comes around, then it's gonna be, a truck is needed and then something else. Like, I get it, I get the truck situation, you've got me wrapped, I just understand, but it's $100,000 is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I just-
I think that MB was 115 when it was purchased.
Are we gonna use that other money we got from the auction for this machine then, or?
Well, what I'm proposing is, instead of replacing our hot patcher, and instead of replacing one of the pickups, we use the budgeted money for those two items to make this purchase. And there was, I don't remember what it was, there was a shortfall still.
73 and ended up to 82.
Yeah, we had 73 budgeted, 82 is the total cost, so that $9,000 difference would utilize some of the auction proceeds.
What is the condition of whatever, we obviously have a hot patch trailer and a pickup truck now that you're using. What is their current condition? Are they going to really last through another fiscal year?
I wish I knew that.
Well, we
And
we need to.
I've tried to explain to council that we are pushing the replacements of these things to their very end, and almost everything that we're replacing, including the police cars, we're taking them to the very end of their life. And if we can get within a couple months of that budget adoption, then we feel like we've done a good job, because we've used that resource to its fullest extent, and still are able to replace it. The hot patcher, we put a lot of work into that every year, and replacing the burners, replacing the sensors, and it's old, it's tired, and Jeremy does a tremendous job limping it along. but it's also way too big for what the size of this community. So when we replace it, we're gonna buy one about half the size of that. That's a lot more efficient and easy, you know, that's a lot of weight to be pulling around with the trucks and a lot of wear and tear, and so, we'll just keep doing our best.
How are we going to finance this? Is this a cash purchase, or are we going to
Yeah,
do a
this
loan?
would be a cash purchase. Because the two items that we are deferring would have been cash purchases also.
Are you ready? Laura, please take the roll call.
Councilmember Schmansky,
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Bachmann,
Yes?
Councilmember Grabowski,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan,
No.
Mayor Baten,
Yes?
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, consideration of a resolution approving a grant application to update the beach master plans. In 2008, the City of Manistee completed work on master plans for First Street Beach, Fifth Avenue Beach, and Man-Made Lake. Many recommendations of the master plans have been implemented. The Department of Public Works has recommended that the master plans be updated. Total estimated cost for the master plans is $28,000. A grant application is being prepared for submission to the United States Department of Commerce Coastal Management Program for $14,000. The city's $14,000 will need to be included in an upcoming budget cycle. At this time, council could take action to approve the resolution to approve the submission of the grant application, commit to the requiring matching funds, and authorize the city clerk to certify the document. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Discussion?
Is this a requirement by law, or is this just a nice to have, or is it required to have, or need to have? Where's this fall? Yeah.
This isn't a requirement by any law. The master plans, the parks master plans that you just approved recently is a requirement if you want to apply for DNR funding. That's not what this is about. When the city did the master plans in 2008, there was a very diverse input from council and planning members and Parks Commission. The students really were one of the things that blew me away, and a lot of their ideas were incorporated in the final plan and got implemented. So if you just take First Street Beach, the revetment work we just completed was one of those recommendations. The upgrade to the bathrooms, the fish cleaning station, the new playground that's down there, the upgraded Wi-Fi, the fire pits, that was one of the things that the students, if you remember, asked for. So there's been so much done down there, or at both of those beaches, that it just feels like this is a good time to refresh those documents, refresh what the community's vision is, what they would like to see. Plus, we're anticipating some, excuse me, some parking improvements. Obviously, there's development happening at First Street, so this is not a need to have. I think it's very forward-thinking for the community to.
So if we don't get the grant, what happens, and who gets this $28,000? Where's that money going? Who are you paying? Are we paying someone to do the master plan for us? or-
The way that I've viewed this is that this is a $28,000 effort that we would proceed if we receive half that money. So if we do not receive that grant, then we probably would look for another source of funding.
So if you get the $28,000, I'm not clear how you spend it. I mean, you hiring someone to do the master plan? down
Yes,
there?
we would hire a consultant to do that.
Okay, and you haven't got bids for that yet, though, probably, right?
Well, we're working with Spicer Group. They assisted in putting that application together. They assisted in the budget and going through the program guidelines. Yeah.
So this doesn't include any kind of far as the playground equipment or anything, it's just the master plan.
It's just a planning
Because
process.
I know we have some really outdated playground equipment that I believe should be upgraded, and I think the parks could be a little, well, they should be all ADA compliant. So I know that we have a new manager now, and I think that that's probably on his radar as well.
Yeah, and this type of master plan really looks at things like that and says, if we're gonna spend money, where should we be spending it? Should we spend to replace, to upgrade, to develop new, to remove? It really goes through that whole gamut.
And just to add to that, to the question with playground equipment or anything that might need improvements, getting it in the plan, this particular coastal management program does have a construction component to it,
Okay,
but you need to go through the planning process. But it's not required like the trust fund is, but they do expect you to have a master plan in place to go through any construction. So this is kind of step one in the process. It's the costs to it are similar to what we had, what was done in 2008. They're similar in today's dollars. And the main thing that really drives a lot of the costs on this is having a very in-depth, community-driven process. So there'd be a lot of events where we meet, work sessions, to kind of gather input, put it together, put it back out, get feedback. That whole thing's going to take several months to get through. We could whip a plan together probably very cheaply and then get beat up on it later. But so the idea that this will take time, it will take a lot of people's involvement, a lot of meetings, and that kind of drives the cost a little bit.
okay, well, that explained it a lot more thoroughly, thank you.
Will the band shell be part of this? Because one of the concerns, or one of the things that kind of slowed down the band shell project, was a needs assessment. Is this going to be comparable to that and make that possible?
I wouldn't presume one way or the other. I think that these plans should be community driven, and if the community wants that project and believes in it, then it becomes part of the master plan. That project actually is in the current master plan that was done in 2008. And that was driven by the school-age kids saying, we want to just sit by a fire on the beach and hang out with our friends. And Mr. Police Officer, if you guys are worried about us doing bad things, put them up close to the street where you can see us. And another girl said, we want to have dances down at the beach. And at one time, I mean, and seriously, the older people with gray hair like me in the room were kind of like, oh boy. And somebody said, wait a minute, I remember there being a dance hall at the end of First Street Beach in the bait house. And all of a sudden everybody went, oh my gosh, I do remember that. And we used to go down there for dances. And then, so then it was a turning moment, because then the older people in the crowd and the younger people kind of meshed their feelings, and everybody was then very outward. And so if the community says, no, there shouldn't be a band shell down there, the community speaks.
The only reason I brought it up is because there's $10,000 sitting in a savings account from the Salt City Rock and Blues to go towards the needs assessment for that project. I was just wondering if it could be used towards this and reduce the funding cost. But part of it would be some type of an assessment to say that yes, it is needed. That's basically what they were looking for, is the same kind of thing.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying there's $10,000 out there. That goes a long way to a $14,000 requirement.
And through this process, I think all these different groups, the Rotary's not, the Rotary was invited last time. The Lions were invited to be a part of this. The South City Rock and Blues ought to be a part and give their input on it. I mean, all those special interest groups, everybody who's got interest in those three beaches should have a say and should participate.
Well, my question is, after this, will we still have to go back and have another assessment if the city says, yes, we do want to have a band shell? Are we going to have to spend another $28,000 to have that done again?
So the assessment that we were looking at for the band shell was for a consultant to come in and say, yes, if you build a stage, here's how big it is, here's how many seats you should have, here's how you could draw, here's the type of of entertainment that you can have, and here's the return on your investment, and really study the economics of that so that it was the right size. And we didn't build a 3,000 seat facility when the community really only needed a 500 seat. You know what I'm saying? And so that was the next step in that process. And when we were going through that whole effort, what was left of AES had pledged that they knew of a funding source that would pay for that. And the city actually requested requests for qualifications and proposals. And then there was no AES left and there was no funding source. And that's kind of where that effort had stopped.
So that scope of work is not typically in this master plan, the actual needs assessment. It's kind of a very specific skill set, say, more of a marketing. So to some extent, I think we could consult with some companies on that, but, the beach master planning is more big picture about a lot of things and not really driving down too much. We would do some, rough cost estimating to get, I think we could do some of that to give a scale to it, but it's not getting in the weeds at all. And that's kind of the first step of getting in the weeds is, driving down that needs.
And if the community desire is still there for that project, then we should be looking for some grant money to, and to use maybe the funds that are available for matching and push that to the next step.
Mr. Gamble, do you have any thoughts on this? Is there any way we can use any of the American Recovery
I think there's a
funds?
possibility, but this grant, I think, just kind of having a master plan for the beach as these places evolve, and even replacing ADA equipment there, the proper placement, what types of things go well on a beach. I think these are things that do change over time. There may be a piece of equipment or something like that we're not aware of. So it is good to kind of go through these just to kind of have a game plan for how to address the beach and going forward. Because it is such a beautiful asset the community has, I think we want to make sure we do what's best to maximize the value of the beach for everyone.
Anybody else? Would you like to take the roll call vote for us? Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan,
Yes.
Mayor Beaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac,
Yes.
Councilmember Schmansky,
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Bachman,
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Consideration of applications to boards and commissions. The city clerk has taken action to advertise vacancies on the Board of Review, Compensation Commission, Harbor Commission, Historic District Commission, Parks Commission, Peg Commission, and Tree Commission. Mayoral and manager appointments require a motion, second, and council voted support. Nominations for council appointments do not require a second. After all the nominations are made, council votes on the nominee until one nominee receives a majority vote. The following applications have been received. For Board of Review, one vacancy, regular member, term ending 12/31/24. Term starts 12/31/21. Applicants shall be tax-paying electors of the city who are owners of property assessed for taxes in the city, and at the time of their appointment are neither elected or appointed officials of the city. Council appointment. Council?
Erica Hawkins, 5 McGill.
Okay. Doesn't require a second.
I'd like to nominate Mary Kowalski Wilhelm for 21 Cedar Street.
We have two nominees, so we'll have to take a vote. So everybody will state who they want.
Okay, Councilmember Lundberg.
So am I saying which one of those two I'm voting for?
Yes.
Mary Kowalski?
Councilmember Bachman,
Same, Mary Kowalski.
Councilmember Grabowski,
I'll go with Mary Wilhelm, 421 Cedar Street.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan,
Erica Hawkins.
Mayor Beaton,
Erica Starkey Hawkins.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac,
Erica?
and Councilmember Szymanski.
Mary Kowalski Wilhelm?
Mary Kowalski Wilhelm was
Okay, thank
selected.
you. Parks Commission, 2 vacancies, 1 term ending 6/30/22, 1 term ending 6/30/23. Applicants may be non-residents but must own real estate or a business profession having a licensed business location in the city or have a child attending school within the city. Mayoral appointment. At this time, I would like to appoint Karen Moore, or I'm sorry, Karen Mao of 536 4th Street. And this would be for the vacancy ending 6/30/23. Roll call.
Pardon me? This is a mayoral appointment, so it does require
A
a
vote.
support.
Yep.
Support.
Support.
Okay. Mayor Beaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac,
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski,
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Bachman,
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Congratulations. It's nice to see you. Considerations of committee appointments. I am the mayor, so at this time I'm going to make up for various council appointments. Oh, did I forget something? You're shoving paper at me, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes. For alternatives for youth, for area youth, Aaron Martin Pontiac, I'm leaving you there. For the audit committee, I'm going to do something with a little twist. We have an audit meeting this week, and I'm going to I'm going to stay on the audit committee for this week, and then afterwards, going forward, then it'll be Aaron Pontiac.
Okay.
That way we have time to make arrangements with the accounting firm to find an appropriate time for you to do that. So, Local Revenue Sharing Board, Jim Grabowski. MRA, Cindy Lundberg. Oil and Gas, I have to stay as chair, it's in the charter. Sullivan is going to serve on it. Ordinance Committee, Mick Szymanski, going to stay as chair, and Jermaine Sullivan and Dave Bachman will stay on that. For the Sands Park Control Board, Jermaine is going to serve on that. And Mr. Bachman, I don't know when the Utilities Committee meets, but that's where I thought,
Utilities?
yeah. Are you okay with that? Okay, and that's all I have. I know there's a personnel committee, but that's a manager appointments.
Yeah, so I think there's one vacancy on the Personnel Committee. We have Councilman Sullivan and also Councilman Jim Grabowski's on that. My understanding is they haven't met since 2017, but I'd still like to fill the vacancy, and I'd like to recommend appointment of Councilman Dave Bachman for the vacancy.
Moving on to notices, communication.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I could, the council support of the city manager's appointment of the Personnel Committee is needed.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
thanks.
sorry, I didn't know that.
You don't do this often enough for me to.
Sorry, I
All
didn't know
right,
that.
roll call.
Okay, just a second.
I think you'd probably need a motion in support.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
There you go.
Should get that, Jermaine.
Oh, but, well. Bachman and, thank you. Councilmember Bachman,
Yes.
Mayor Beaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Lundberg,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski,
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Motion passed.
There's a 911 board authority, and Josh Glass is on it, and I'm not sure who makes the appointment for that, but I would like to assume that he'd still be on that. Do you know offhand if that's something the mayor or the manager has to?
You can look that up.
I don't even know if it's in CP10.
That looks like Ed in the background.
Mayor, does there need to be another appointment to the oil and gas board for the position I hold currently?
I'm sorry, what did you say, Ed?
For the oil and gas board?
Oh, you know what? Your term expires the end of this month. I think I'd like to keep you on that if you don't mind.
I don't have the 911 board in here.
So I would like to also make sure that Ed Bradford stays on the Oil and Gas Investment Board.
I don't have anything.
Thank you.
We're not finding anything on the 911 board, but if you'd like to appoint Chief Glass to continue, I think that would.
I think that's
Appropriate.
appropriate. If that's okay with Chief Glass.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I'd be honored.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. Notices, communications, announcements. The city manager was not able to attend tonight, so unfortunately, we will have to postpone hearing her report until she returns. And we do have an item, it's called Response to the Oxford Shooting. And I'm presuming that Chief Glass has something to say about that.
Yep,
perhaps.
and I'll kick it off, Mayor, if you don't mind. I know you and I spoke about this last week. I know you lived in Oxford, and we talked about how to prevent a situation like this. Of course, if you're talking with Chief Glass, each situation is different, but I think learning from this particular one, just make a couple statements and invite Chief Glass up. But just responsible gun ownership is important. We need to make sure our children don't have access to guns. We'll continue to work with our schools. Our police department has a liaison assigned to each school, which helps keep the lines of communication open. If someone is aware of a threat, we'd ask that they please contact the police department. And the state of Michigan has launched an OK to Say campaign. It's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week tip line where someone can confidentially report criminal activity or potential harms directed at schools. The number to call for that is 855-565-2729. And so as I mentioned, Chief Glass is here to help answer any questions that council may have on this topic.
Yeah, just to add to that, thank you, council. In recent years, we've taken great steps in improving our relationships with the schools and opening lines of communication. The liaison program is one of those steps. Every month, there's a meeting with law enforcement and school administrators at schools around the county. That has helped us and assisted us in any type of issue that might arise. It helps us bring it to the forefront and discuss it, whether it be active shooter, vaping, truancy, any issue. That gives us the platform to deal with those. So I just want to impress upon council that we have taken great steps. And my personal philosophy as chief is it's not necessarily if this is going to happen. My mindset is it's going to happen, it's when. And that kind of keeps me sharp on my toes to make sure we're always pushing the ball forward and doing everything we can to be prepared. You're never 100% prepared, but you can do what's in your control to make sure that you're in a position to be successful. Our police officers are trained to respond to active shooter. I can assure you that when they show up, they go in and they address the threat. We don't wait around. We don't wait for 2, 3 officers as we did 2 decades ago. Officers show up, they go in and they address the threat. My expectation is they're going to put their life on the line to protect children, and I'm fully confident they will. So I think that's important for council to hear.
I I think I'd probably feel more comfortable if I knew some of those specifics. I'm going to be honest with you. I know 3 families from Oxford that have a total of 7 children that were in that high school that day, and one of them was one of the wounded. So naturally, I really care about their children, and I really care about the children in our community. And I love the fact that you've told us that you have a lot of communication with the school, and it's very open. But I think I want to know more of the specifics, like how do we keep guns out of the school? I mean, what prevents a child from entering the high school with a handgun in their backpack?
Well, there's nothing that prevents a child. We don't have metal detectors at the schools. But the conversation we had today at the meeting that I mentioned earlier is I thought it was important to explain to educators what their rights are as far as searching students' belongings and backpacks, and what our position is as law enforcement and working together. The key is to make sure that if there's any suspicious activity, any type of threat, that the school knows they can contact law enforcement. And that contact, the quicker that happens, the quicker we get involved, the more successful we can be. And for us, the previous cases that we've had, if we think there's a possible threat, I call it push the button. We push the button and we work that until we can trace it back to the source. That might be 30 minutes, it might be 6 hours, it might be a day involving multiple law enforcement partners. So an example I can give you is last week we had a potential threat. The school contacted us. We worked that back. It ended up being something that was posted years ago that was just reposted on social media. But we worked that back until we could figure out, is this a valid threat or not? So those types of communications. Making sure the school knows what to look for and then who they call. And the quicker they get us involved, the better.
You know, Josh, you have some experience. You actually had a situation where someone claimed a girl brought a gun in a backpack to school. How did you respond to that? You remember that case? Detective, the girl was in the school, the boyfriend called it in, said she had a gun in the backpack.
Right. It's a matter of managing resources and instant response to it, and tracking it down to the source, tracking that person so we know, is this a valid threat as soon as possible. Having them removed from the school, and knowing and educating the school on what to do in that situation. Do you call us and do you wait? Do you make contact with the student? And a really useful tool for us is when we do tabletop exercises. We haven't done one since 2019 because of COVID. But we go over those situations where we have PowerPoint presentations and we go minute by minute. This is the situation you have. Okay, what's the school's response? What's law enforcement response? So you get a rep at how we should handle these things.
But you went on lockdown that day, and as I recall, you tried to get into that classroom and the teacher wouldn't let you in because it was a violation of the protocol. And
Right.
that teacher responded 100% as that teacher should have in that situation, because what happens is the cop goes door and says, the cops open the door, let us in, we think someone's got a gun in there, and they're not allowed to do it until the school takes the lockdown off. As I recall in that situation, you did a really good job of managing that situation, locking the school down, and the teacher was phenomenal in locking that classroom and not letting you in
Right.
until we pulled the plug.
And the piece to that is working with the schools through our emergency management system to do annual drills so that they know the proper procedure for a lockdown. And so keeping all the kids safe, locked down until we can verify this is a threat or not. So, and it's a constantly evolving process. What we thought 2 decades ago with Columbine is not true today. So again, when I say that it's not if, it's when, that keeps us on the cutting edge, always exploring options, always taking a look at things that happen to Oxford. What can we learn from that? In fact, we specifically discussed that today in our meeting. What facts did they have? How did they address that? How did they react? And how will we do it in Manistee County?
I have one more question, and that is, when you keep reading all the details about what happened in Oxford, I wonder, what happens if we have a student that we feel could be a threat either to himself or to other students within the school, and the parents refuse to take him? Where would we send that child?
So in that specific scenario, we've worked out with the schools, if they are essentially expelling a kid, they want him to leave the grounds, and they refuse, they call us. We would take custody of the child, contact Human Services, Child Protective Services, and work it from that side. If a parent is refusing to take care of their kid, we would work it from the DHHS side, the CPS side.
Can you medically commit a person who you believe is an imminent danger to himself or others?
Under the Michigan Medical,
Work?
I'm sorry, yeah, under the Michigan Medical Health Code, if we think they're a danger to themselves or others immediately, we can take them into protective custody and take them out to the hospital for an evaluation. That's part of that process.
Okay.
But if we have a situation where we don't think they're a danger to themselves, but the school is basically saying this student must leave, the parents aren't taking them, we've instructed the school to give us a call. We will come, take custody of the child, contact the parents. If the parents refuse, and we work through Child Protective Services to come up with a solution. Again, these things don't just involve the police. They involve police, fire, juvenile services, the school, CPS, and it's a matter of wrangling all those resources when it's necessary. So again, when we talked about every situation is different, it's what do we know about this situation? Okay, what's the resources we throw to it? So that's how we address those. Does that answer your question, Your Honor?
Thank you very much. Yeah. Anybody else have questions?
I'm probably gonna say a few things that are not gonna make people very happy, but I have a real concern that we have a superintendent that is not in this county that, I know that he doesn't want us talking about this, but it concerns me that we have a huge bullying issue in our school system. And I think that you guys are doing an amazing job. When Dave was working, he was constantly there. You could call him all the time. Like, I think you guys do a great job. I think that they need to open their eyes and stop trying to go by policies and procedures and take a step back and, this affects our children. It doesn't affect his children. He has no children in this community. None whatsoever. So we need to walk around and talk to these children and, pay attention to the bullying. There's a reason why people are pulling these kids out of our school system. There's a reason why they're shipping them to Onekama and Bear Lake and Brethren. There is a huge bullying problem going on in the school system. And I understand you gotta follow policies and procedures, but you can't keep turning a blind eye to it. And, him calling and saying, hey, don't talk about this and don't talk about that. That's not helping us. He's not helping us being in the community. And he can get mad at me all he wants. It's affecting my child. So there's an issue and it needs to be addressed. Something has to happen. Like we have to address it, and it can't be, we have to address it. And people that don't have children in the school system, they have to know that there's a problem going on. They have to. It's not all, hush up. And the school board has to be more transparent with their meetings and what's going on. They can't say, hey, it's great, everybody's happy here. We don't have an issue, because they do.
I can't speak to bullying specifically, but what I can tell you is Ron Stoneman is present at every meeting we have, school safety. Any type of problem with the schools and police, he's there as part of that partnership. That's what I can tell you. Whether it be a traffic study or a vaping problem or things you mentioned, so.
Yeah, but have the people talk to the kid, because I'm in agreement with you. I've heard nothing but from a lot of kids about the bullying problem there.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
And unfortunately, we've kind of stepped back a little bit how much of our officers are actually interacting with the kids. And I can't wait to get back to that, because we saw the benefits, the dividends of that greatly, where we have a lot of police and student interaction. Right now, our officers are checking into the office, checking with administration, how are things going, what are some issues. Prior to COVID, we were in the schools interacting with the kids and building those relationships. The example that I use is Sergeant Van Sickle. When we first started this program, he shows up to the school, and what do the kids say? They say, oh, the police are here, who's in trouble? And by the end of the school year, it was, hey, Officer Dougie, and they're giving high fives. That's proof that we built relationships, so that if we have students that have problems, they can approach our officers one-on-one and say, this is what I have going on. That's the relationship that I want to continue, with the constraints of COVID.
Oxford messed up when they let that kid go back to class. Did they ever search him? I don't know.
The facts that we have right now And that's basically, I've got the facts that you have, is what's in the paper in the Oakland County Prosecutor's released, is that I think the language they used was there's a strong possibility that he had a firearm in the backpack. And we don't believe they searched the backpack. We talked about this specifically in school safety, and we talked about administrative searches versus probable cause police searches and how would the schools handle that if that happened here. So I'm glad that that unfortunate event led us to that conversation today. How specifically would you handle that? And what does that look like? Who searched the backpack? And gun safety on the school staff and the police. So my understanding is, to answer your question, I don't believe they searched the backpack, and it led us to a great conversation today how we
It
would.
didn't involve the police.
Did not.
It did not involve the police.
That's my understanding.
Well, that's what the sheriff said. We would like to have been wheeled into this earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, do we have to get a search warrant if we want to do that?
We do not. So the burden of proof for administrative search, meaning a school agent searching, is reasonable suspicion. And if they suspect that it's a policy violation for the school or law violation, they can search. Now, they can ask us to assist with that search if they suspect drugs or guns, because they're not trained to handle that. What we can't do is, we can't ask administrators to search a kid's backpack on behalf of the government. So I think it was very important to talk to the educators today to differentiate the difference. The message today was, if you want to get us involved, get us involved. You know, if you want to conduct a search, we'll search that. We're trained with firearms, drugs, and whatnot. And the evidence that I have with working with MAP schools and Casman is that I think if that scenario happened, they would absolutely call us and we would be there. We'd be searching that backpack.
That's good to know. Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Concerns and comments. Citizen comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment on municipal services, activities, or areas of city involvement. Citizens in attendance shall be recognized by the mayor for comments limited to 5 minutes. Letters submitted to council will not be publicly read. Do we have anybody who would like to come forward and make any comments? Moving on to officials and staff. Mr. Gamble, nice to see you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to be back. Couple updates, just the filters so far. Our DPW's handed out 82 filters to date. It's both faucet and pitcher filters for the lead filters. So if people are interested, they can come by. If they qualify, they can pick that up at DPW. We've had 53 sample kits picked up to date, and we're asking people if they have their water tested at the house to please share those results. We've only had 9 share the results. They were under, 7 of them were no detect, and the other 2 were very low levels, below the action level. So it's good to see that, and just know that those kits are available at DPW. You can pick it up, and then I think the Trace Analytical is the lab. They're about $28. They pick up the kits every Tuesday, and I think they get it back about a week later. So just keep that in mind, and that's available at DPW.
Is there any reason Trace can't give us the results directly?
Well, I think they said, I thought you had yours done, don't they? I thought they send them to the, well, they send them to the individuals.
They
Yeah.
did, and I shared my results with you, which was no detection. It was good. But I'm just wondering if there's a way
And
that we could,
We could ask, but I do think there's
privacy.
probably, I mean, it's an individual's home. It's probably, I don't know if there are some privacy concerns, but there are places in the house that could have lead, and I'm not sure if it's something they can just disclose that to us. I can look into that, though.
I'm just curious.
And then it looked like the state of Michigan provided an announcement today. They sent that to you and me, Mayor, and about the DWAM grant, state of Michigan, the $606,000 to help us do the sampling to get kind of a statistical analysis about what areas are going to need improvement throughout the community. And I want to thank the Spicer Group of kind of getting on top of that. We knew this was coming for some time, and I think with that action level exceedance, we're really looking forward to getting the data back from that, getting the testing done. And as I mentioned before, we have 3,000 water connections in the city. Under the new definitions, we have about 1,000 or 1,500 that we have to get some more information on. So I think the more information we have, the better we can address upgrading the system, and this is going to help us.
So if someone has a lead line into their home from the street, who's responsible to replace the homeowner, right? Replaces that themselves?
For a lead service line, it's changed over the years, and now the city would be responsible for a lead service line. We haven't found any lead service lines. I think there were a few lead goosenecks, which are those connections from the service line into the home, or there's 4 connection points. There's kind of at the meter, you have after the meter, before the meter, the connection from the water main. You have the service line, and then you have that connection to the water main.
Does the lead line look different than a galvanized pipe? I mean, is the lead line a very specific pipe?
It is.
It's not
correct.
a galvanized pipe?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And there's ways to look at it. You can kind of scratch it. The goosenecks are kind of the most obvious. It looks like, and they call it a gooseneck because it looks like maybe a goose swallowed a golf ball, and it's just kind of bulbous in the middle. And there's other things like you can scratch it, and it's shiny. So we'll have that information on the website as well. Thank you.
Mr. Saylor?
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Laura Lane?
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Oh, boy. Sean Middleton?
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Ed Bradford?
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
I can't see who's in front of you. Mark Harmon, nice to see you again.
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Chief Glass?
Just real quick,
Yep.
I'm talking more active, but a sleigh bell, no major incidents for sleigh bell, police side, or fire side, street protected council. Things are relatively smooth.
Great. Did I miss anybody out there? Mr. Bachman?
Couple things. First, thank you, Josh, Chief Glass, for your comments about the school. I personally have a lot of confidence that given access to the information, our law enforcement and EMS team would respond extremely well and head that kind of stuff off. So I appreciate your thoughts, and I know you're thinking in the right direction. Sleigh bell was great. I attended for the first time in a few years. I was really happy with that. And last but not least, I think we need to at least engage in conversation about going back to Zoom for the winter. COVID is screaming off the shelves. It's happening. It's happening here at City Hall. It's happening with city employees. It's happening in the community. People are dying. I think it's worth a conversation to talk about, should we go back to Zoom meetings for winter? So that's my thoughts.
I just had 2 comments. One, I am looking forward to attending the new elected officials training that starts Thursday this week, and I'm doing it virtually this week and next week, so I'm looking forward to further learning in my new position here. And then I also just wanted to say that, you know, I feel like a very proud citizen of Manistee. This weekend was just really awesome. It was walking downtown, people everywhere, music on the streets, going to see the Festival of Trees. It was just really great. I felt very, very proud to be part of this community, and for all the people who had to work so hard to make that happen, I just want to say thank you. It was really great.
Ms. Bonilla?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing, echo that it was great this weekend to see the sleigh bell back, and it seemed like old times again. So.
It did. Mr. Grabowski?
Well, I think a lot of people were happy to see the horses. They love those horses coming down the street. Josh, I wanted to ask you, what have we finished up with that laundromat on Washington Street? What are we doing with that place?
In which regard, in blight or rental?
Yeah, I mean, you were going to go in with some people and check it out and all that?
So, the inside doesn't really pertain to blight. We addressed, there was a trailer there that had been there for months. I believe we got that addressed, but the inside we don't have much foothold as far as blight if the inside is not remodeled, underfinished. We addressed it from a rental aspect because we had a major incident in one of the units there. There was a rental, was not qualified to be rental. So we addressed it from that angle and got what compliance we could for the blight. So I can check on the inside and see where that's at.
Yeah, because you know, I thought Safe Built was going to go in there.
There's a for sale sign.
He did, the previous Safe Built rep did. There's some transition. He addressed it more from the rental side with the one unit. So let me find out what happened on the inside, and I can get back with you.
Did they charge any of those kids that were living there with the fight and the stabbing? And
No, only the person who attended the party there was charged with the suspect.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Szymanski.
Just two things. One of them, good job from the DPW for leaf removal this year. You got all the leaves just in time. So, I mean, it couldn't have done timing any better. And then second of all, again, just a shout out and a thanks to all the people who provided security for Sleigh Bell. You had the CERT team, they did a great job. You had our police force, the fire department, DPW. If you may not have noticed, and it's good if you didn't, but they had trucks at strategic locations to kind of close off the streets. I think, you know, again, collectively, I don't think we could have done any better from trying to keep it a secure and safe environment. So good job, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll let our DPW director know he had to step out. He had his son's playing basketball tonight. So.
Well, I enjoyed the parade, and I enjoyed all the activities around it. I'm a member of the Lakeside Club, and we really had a good time hosting the Festival of Trees and organizing that. It was a big success. So there was lots to do, lots to see. I really liked it. It really felt good to actually participate in something so uplifting. And I just want to make it clear that how I feel about the schools. The closer collaboration the police have with the school officials and the students on campus at MAPS is going to make a big difference, and it seems like you're really working toward that. I do go back to an incident that I saw at the beach, First Street Beach. I probably told this story before, but I saw one of your officers go down that huge slide that's on the beach, and there were a bunch of kids down there clapping for him. And I think I saw one playing basketball with a couple of kids too. So all of that is good. If the students feel they are on a first name basis with the police, I think that helps as well as the administration feeling comfortable to say, hey, this is kind of, we think we might need you. You know, even if they're not 100% sure, I would like to know that that they can just call and say, we're not sure on this one, to get some guidance. So all in all, I thought it was a really nice sleigh bell parade. It was good to see it in action again. And I thank everybody here who enjoyed it and participated in it. And that's it. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.